session is on now. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to all of you for the IDC Alumni Talk number 38. Today we have Professor Manisha Phadke, and some of us have had the privilege of being taught by her. You know, my batch and probably a couple of batches. That is in the 90, 91, 93, around that time. Manisha passed out from IDC in '89, and she has been a design evangelist, and also been a consultant. And from what I gather, she had been hands-on, dabbling, starting with graphic design, then moving into the digital world, and doing a lot of consulting in digital products, and worked very closely with technology. And I think she shaped her learning, shaped her career as things evolved and emerged. And what is interesting is that she is a founder director of the NMIMS, which is the Nursing Only School of Management, the School of Design. She founded not only this program, and she's the first director. And what is very interesting is that she actually started this not just as yet another design education to be initiated and delivered. Rather, she actually went deep down to understand what the future of this design education should look like. And from what I gather, she did like a project, did all her assessment in terms of what the curriculum should be. And she used a very interesting word, and that caught my attention, that she talked about humanizing technology, and that became the overarching philosophy around which she has been doing her work also. And she tied that with the conception of this program, where she has actually looked at the whole idea of the trans-disciplinary education in design, with a very clear focus on where it will lead to in terms of creating designers for the future. That's why she titles it the Future Scoped Trans-Disciplinary Education. And very interestingly, there is a lot of emphasis that she has put on the character that makes a designer, and how this program is looking at creating that character. So I don't know enough about this, and I'm as curious as all of you to listen to how this played out. But very impressive interactions with her, the kind of conviction with which she goes about doing things, and a grasp of the technology, and also the high level of vested interest she has in the education of a designer is extremely inspiring. So I'm sure that this session is going to be extremely inspiring, eye-opening, and also probably excite a lot of us to relook at our own conception about design education, and probably goad a lot of us into collaborate and participate as things shape up in the future. So with this, I hand over the session to Manisha. It's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi, for this heavily loaded introduction, but I gather that I'm just here. I think I see myself as 1989 to now as the same Manisha, probably got fat a little bit on the way intellectually as well as the physical dimension, but here I am. So hello everybody, and it's always better to be in the safe haven of your alma mater. It's also fun, and it's also a time to thank IDC and the faculty, without whom I wouldn't be who I am, and I truly believe that. It is always a tussle between my time and now it is how it is in IDC, and the band of this will differ from batch to batch, but let's talk about this on another day and focus on the topic today. But before I get there, I think we should thank Nimish for this pioneering effort, and which is closely followed by Ravi. And I must say he's dedicated and relentless over this past 1.5 months that we have worked together. So I'm here to share with you my experience of starting a school ground up. Respecting time, I'm going to focus on the envisionment of this program rather than the whole cycle. So here I am. I'm actually sharing my age out there, but here's a disclaimer. When you work in design, you always remain young, and it helps you from being dinosaurized. That's the word I just coined quickly. As you can see, I've traversed different sectors. I started, and I know Ravi was my guide as well, and started in information design, but I was I think lucky to be one of the few GUI designers around that time. I think GUI is now graphic user interface, and now which is popularly called as UX probably. So meandering through all this, what I realized is that design education teaches you certain pathways to relearn and learn. Every sector was a challenge for me, and I think that's who I am as a person, who I am as a professional. And I realized that every assignment I did, I had to relearn or realign what I knew. And that's my belief in design education. I think there is no other education that keeps you on the learning pathway. Maybe medicine, I'm not sure, but design definitely. Um, I think my experience bank right now deposits this multi-sectorial and multi-challenging profiles. I've been able to work with blue collar and white collar nationally, internationally, and that's probably the bank and the think tank that I bring when I started envisaging this program. That's why I'm giving you a little backstory. So when I got, I think 2017, early 2017, I never even dreamt that I would get this assignment of starting a school. And when the chancellor of NMIMS called me to do that, I actually looked at him very quizzically and I said, "Do you really think so? I'm not a seasoned academician." And he, I guess in his business hat said, "I know," did he say? He said, "Kis घोड़े पे मुझे दांव लगाना है मालूम है," right? So I trusted him more than me, and I decided to take up this assignment, and with the only clause that I would give him a project proposal at the end of the month, and if it works out that he would like to start a school that I'm proposing, we would go on ahead. So I started this project like any design project. I interviewed and met with about 75 people, professionals, everybody around design, para design. Well, I read up a lot, definitely. And what is interesting is what I got from it, right? And I think this time was really hectic and intense. Design aspirants to design students was a great journey of what they told me, what they wanted. And I was really looking at the spectrum of what they expected and what they got in this journey of being design students. When I started talking to earlier mid and senior career people, I was looking at the transitory movement of design education and how it leads into profession and what data they were really giving me. So the early careers said that they really struggled for the first 2 years to find their bearing in the desk that they owned, and wish that they had some kind of dots that they could connect to education. The mid-career, interestingly, I never thought this happened, but they said that a few of them really actually turned around and started doing something different, of course in the design domain, but not in the stream that they had educated in, because they said they thought that they wanted to do it somewhere midway, but they couldn't because of the program that they chose. Well, the senior people had a very bird's eye view at what was happening, and they were the people who had seen decades, right, from no internet to ubiquitous technology, and they had a way of saying that the young are fully aware of what is happening, but I really feel that they should have some depth of thought and some humility along the way. And these are some key insights, but let me tell you, there was a lot more. I think talking to educators in India and internationally was a real eye-opener for me. Everybody was talking about the change that has happened in the society and how we need to look at streams and what is a skill set anymore, and what's the new design toolkit that they were talking about. They also mentioned of being ambushed with design thinking along the way, and how business owners and business managers started taking up designerly way of thinking, and that was ambushing education system, and not liberalizing but probably democratizing what we had in our kitty. Another point of view was also that whilst we were looking at education fundamentally as coming from Bauhaus, and that was working till now, and lots of other layers that got added over the years, because of the ubiquitous technology, because of how design was being looked at. I would say that 80% of the design educators were saying that I think we need to look at the fundamental of design education again. We need to question it and talk about it. And, there were many conferences happening. Ravi also organized one of them, and World WDO did one. And, it was a good learning along the way. Now, when we talk about a product or service that you're offering, you're looking at who's your user. So here I am, and I was looking at, because the assignment was with a private university, I was looking at that particular user here, and I got into a concept of new Indians, right? And the Gen Z, and what they brought to the table. So the new Indians were people who adopted global milieu really fast. They were upwardly mobile. They were the higher middle class. And along the way, they slowly started diminishing their Indian social fabric, right? So the students were not exposed to that bit of India. The 18-year-old in India, and this doesn't go for new Indians or Gen Z, this is universal, that the 18-year-old Indian student is not as independent as his European or American counterparts. So the decision, the well-thought-of decision of doing a certain program or choosing a certain faculty is influenced by parents in a large way. And the higher education that we are trying to deliver, or the school education that they come in, because they are these new Indians, they are a little far from rural, and maybe the India as a whole, as the reality of India really is in question, and we need to work with as designers. So what was then? Where do they come from? They come from an Indian education system that is definitely not inquiry-based. So asking why is something you really it's not common. We are looking at, there are 13 years of education being competitive, fiercely competitive, and being non-sharing. They don't share what they know with other people because it is a herd-based competitive exam. And that is really not constructive to design education. Well, I did mention about certain Gen Z student and their context, but liberalization of information. So whether information is education is something the Gen Zs are confused about. They're native technologists, but not many of them are tinkering technology for certain use. They are also looking at a Photoshop generation. They're looking at quick fixes to other things. And there is, how should I say, there is a yin-yang in them. There are some people who are like this. There's some people who are diametrically opposite, who go in depth, and so on and so forth. We all know, and there are industry here, that we have changing paradigms in design professional. So I think when I graduated, it was that I was given a design brief and we worked around in our own offices and went back and presented, right? So now we are working into participatory workshop. We are redefining problem statements, and it's more a conducive kind of a working environment, right, rather than silos. We are also moving from a single skill set in our toolkit to being multi-skill set. So you may know, what I'm driving at is the skill set that streams give you, like design streams that we are educated in give you. So we are looking at awareness of multi-skill if you don't own all of them. What's important, I felt, is we are moving away from individual creativity and We were just talking before this talk began, and we talked about how we don't have star designers anymore. That's not a thing today, but it's all about how good a facilitator you are, and how do you fuel collaborative creativity within a team of designers as well as interdisciplinary members. And most of all, I think we were always multidisciplinary. But what is important is how we become transdisciplinary. So I think that itself for me was a path I wanted to search. And I said, what's the word for it? And transdisciplinary really means a lot of cognitive load. You're looking at so many different spokes to evolve on a solution, right? And it's more holistic and it's more science-driven as well. So the current design education when I started in 2017 was more stream focused, and we all know it's product design and communication design and so on and so forth. We were still working with form and function and aesthetics, but today you see that form function is given, but we are looking at what is it making me feel, what's the emotion, what is it, and how is it enhancing my life, what's the sustainability behind it, how is it an extension of myself. I talked about individual creativity, but I'm not going to go in there, but most of our programs actually hold individual creativity. Business viability or marketing position, market scoping is not something we even think of when we are soluting problems or when we are nurturing or mentoring our students doing that. We use technology to design and to solution and to deliver our work, but technology as an opportunity was something that is not looked at. What I mean is blockchain is offering great design opportunities. So is VR, and so was IoT some time ago, and so was web maybe a decade ago. But our programs are not looking at technology as an opportunity to solve a problem. We also are current programs, because they were individual creativity, they did not fuel leadership skills. And I will talk about it in a little detail later on. And the last point is, we talk about creativity a great deal and thinking out of the box, but I believe innovation is a very loosely used word. And in my understanding, I believe that when creativity becomes successful, based on business value, I think that's when we can say that we really have an innovative idea and we have arrived. I also looked at education in general. So what's happening around, science education, MBA education, because I was in a university which was multidisciplinary and had about 17 schools then. So education system is always broad-based to specifics. So we do a BSc in science and then move on to microbiology in specifics. But we all know that that's not how design works at, right? Design is more specialist earlier, and the masters are generally career-changing programs. So what I saw and what I'm driving at really, that age and maturity of age really plays a huge role in how you become a specialist. So brain surgeon can't be at the MBBS level at 24, right? I mean, there has to be certain experience working, and age does bring in, besides the white hair, also gray matter that helps you get specialized. I also looked at the best practices in education, and we looked at how program outcomes are written and how AOL, so assured learning outcomes, are worked upon, and how every this network of process that we do, we call that a course structure. How should those course level outcomes then, come to the apex of a program outcome, and then we can say that assuredly, we have a graduate attributes that we deliver as a part of our education or a program delivery. We can't not look at India in specific, and we're looking at the thrust of Digital India, and we're looking at Make in India and Startup India and innovation and again, disciplinary people coming together, and engineers and business owners actually having successful startups. And here I was thinking that, why is there no designer having a successful startup? Why does it have to be a designer who learned along the way make Apple, why aren't we there? And that's something that I put up as a post-it in my office pinboard, and I said, that's what we need to work on. So the insights that in a broader, of course, there were many, but these are a few that I was looking at. I was looking at liberating design education to be more future scoped, to be not playing the catch-up game with the industry, but doing what IDC actually did with me in 1989. I didn't have to learn. I didn't feel outdated for the next 10 years, maybe 2 decades after that. And I had that inspiration in my mind. I was looking at industry and future inclusive education. So industry is looking at today, but a lot of R&D in industry is looking at futures and how we can bring these two things into a program. All said and done, when I was looking at what design education was then, we were nurturing a character of a student, and A.G. Rao's today's message that I read in a group said, we were looking at individual characteristics being developed as a part of the design program, but somewhere we lost that drift. And maybe it was because the millennials came in and the Generation Z came in, the internet came in. But I still feel that design is a habit, and to develop a habit, we have to first nurture a character and build the right attributes. And if we put up that challenge that design of a course and design of a delivery of a course can nurture this character, wow, I think we would be there. The point that most of the people made in my research is seeding professionalism. So not really looking at how the project worked, but how should I be a professional? What is timeline? What is a presentation? What's a 3-minute pitch? And that's what is professionalism today. And last but not the least, we're looking at more evidence-based evaluation. So I'm not saying that subjectivity is not right. Subjectivity will always be, it's inherent to design, but whether we can give a criterion-based evaluation, which can make the student understand where he or she went wrong and what she or he needs to build in. So with that, the focal point of the undergraduate program that we designed for NMIMS School of Design was to nurture young mind, to hone multidisciplinarity, to design technology native solutions with a trans-disciplinary approach. Wow, this is wordy if I put it on Grammarly, but yeah, I mean, let's see how we could do that. So the first thing was how I could list down some key outcomes I need to hit. It was like my DART and system. So I needed to put in multi-skills required for computational design. We needed transdisciplinary knowledge, which is design, technology, sciences, social sciences, cognitive, behavioral, ethnographies, and of course, business. And we are bad at that. I was keen to look at how we could do a holistic transformation of a student, how we can fuel collaborative creativity, and bring user centricity or people centricity more beyond empathy, but bring in senses, behaviors, and society as data. Sorry. So I quickly moved through a series of images that are there in our school. And what I looked at this as a project, I said that the key outcomes or the key ethos or the mission of the school should be translated into a space. So we are one school that has a user testing lab because we were here to say that it's okay to fail, right? And then Gen Z doesn't like to fail. They don't know how to take a no. We're also looking at technology tinkering. So we have a tinkering lab with a table with 4 people. So it fuels collaboration. It fuels 4 people as team to work together. And to take the conversation ahead from facilitators, for those people who have visited the school, as you enter, we have 2 sections and we say it's a learner and it's a facilitator. So we don't call ourselves faculty and the students are learners. So coming to this slide, the 4 years that we had, we catch them young at 18, and we have 4 years with uh, we have 4 years with them. And if you see, the most of our BDS programs are 1 year foundation, but because of this multidisciplinarity, because we needed to hold skills thinking from 2D to 4D with the sciences in the mix, a 2 year program was necessary. So a 2 year foundation program is what we rolled on. And the first year we said that we would expose them to skills in the language of design, and that would be quite assistive learning. So the faculty and the student contact time and nurturing time would be much more. The second year, we would again move the same way, assisted learning, but we would take them into design thinking and exploration. So whatever skills they've learned, how could they enhance their thinking and explore out in the world. So the foundation program actually culminated in students knowing communication design, simple product design, interaction design as outcomes at the 4th semester. So it wasn't really a gray, total exploratory kind of a foundation program. So we moved to 3rd year, where we looked at project-based modules. So every module looked at a problem, and it solved the problem through the technology that that particular module worked on. So we had courses like web and mobile. We have courses like immersive design, which is VR. We have courses which worked on creative entrepreneurship, where they build businesses from an idea. We have behavioral design. We have data design. So we are all looking at, and all of this is in teams. So 3 in a team or 4 in a team, depends upon the complexity of what the course is. The outcome here was to have self-discovery of what you have learned. So how do you apply them into focused real-time applications? So all our problem statements that we actually give them are very current or futuristic in nature. And that was more in design in context and design with technology or opportune technology. So that was the 3rd year. So it was semi-working professionally. We had very strict presentation times, and how we document our work. So it was seeding that professional culture already in the 3rd year. And then we moved to the 4th year, which was actually self-exploration. So from teamwork, we get them back into individual exploration. So who do you think you are after all this? And we explore it in a professional context. And that we do in 2 ways. One, we have a 6 months internship program that most of them have, but here we are slightly different. We have certain criteria we have given to the companies, and the students need to work in that, but they do not work on projects. They are actually working on live projects. For that 6 months, they are employees. So it's like first hand into the rut, if I may use that word. And then they come back, and they go, before that, they do a capstone project, which is what they want to work in, and which ends in a research paper. I forgot to mention that we also teach scientific research as a part of our program. So they write articles, white papers, and research papers at the end. So this is the program in a nutshell. Now, what's the design of this curriculum? So there are 2 kind of courses. One is Designcentric, which will be similar to most streams, and then there are design influencers, as I've just coined the word there. So Designcentric would have courses around design language. So you have sketching, you have form studies, you have design theories, and you have design visualizations, which work from design fundamentals to communication design or storytelling, and so on and so forth. And we have design thinking, which actually works from design theory, which seeds the thought and takes it forward over the 2 years. Then we have courses which are design influencers. So design people really have courses in sociology. So we have social anthropology, we have how do you do ethnographies. We are looking at design science, which focus on ergonomics, cognitive ergonomics, and behaviors. And then we have design management or business studies. So we teach them marketing, we teach them business communication, how to write an email, basically, to how to present in a short timeline, the art of listening. We also work with teaching them marketing and finance and accounts. That culminates into creative entrepreneurship module. So design technology, where we teach them coding. So we start with fun visual coding in P5, we move to HTML and Java, and then we move to Unity. Now, coding is not to make them software engineers, but to know enough not to get afraid of it and to be able to opportune technology as they use it. So how does this all end into outcomes, right? So design visualization and design thinking gives you multi-skills and multidisciplinary sensibilities. I'm using the word sensibilities because that's important. It's not just skill, but how do you develop the sensibilities? It gives you collaborative, creative thinking. Design language and design management, of course, the rest as well, actually help you actualize a solution. And design science along with management allows you to take a scientific approach to your thought process. And design technology with science and people in a way get to how do you work with futuristic ecosystems. So right now it's not a single product design or a service, it's like completely ecosystem driven or share of resources driven, and how do you work that through. And design technology and people actually hones their context and validation skills. So what I'm trying to drive at, that there was a very scientific approach to getting to the course design and the curriculum design and what it outcomes, so that we could follow the best practices of education system. So I want to end that because I believe that character is one of the most important aspect in education. I mean, I've written an article which is there on the Medium, which I feel that the triangle should change. It should be more what the student needs rather than what the teacher needs to teach. And with that, I feel that at 18-year-old, we have the possibility to do that. And I ran an exercise. So when I designed this whole, I would say this is a matrix, sort of, it's like a network. I designed an evaluation system that helped me map whether their attribute is working. So like I mentioned, we have an assignment brief like everybody does. We have an outcome-driven criterion, and then we map it to skills, knowledge, application, and thinking. And each course, as it moves through the years and its outcome, it changes its attributes. And that's how we are trying to map these character attributes. And this data is based on that. What I studied was there was a 5-factor model that I came across with Lewis Goldberg, which is of any character that you have. So extrovism, agreeableness, conscientiousness, emotional stability, and intellect. All of us have it. But how I could actually look at these inherent characteristics that we have, some in different, how should I say, spectrum or level. So I think we could transfer extroversion into curiosity, and then bring agreeableness into, map it on the opposite side as agility. And we could bring in collaboration into the mix, with emotional stability to be giving the perseverant attitude, which is really, really important in design. And that's the 4 character attributes that we're driving through our pedagogy, or how we teach, how is a class session design in school. So these are a few student personas that I have observed over these 5 years. So the first one is curiosity and agility are dominant characters of one persona. Second persona is when, with curiosity and collaboration, they have developed agility over the first year of our course. So certain triggers in our course and the way we deliver has developed that agility. And the third one is they have curiosity and collaboration at the higher level, but have a very lower rung of agility or collaboration. So they are more individual creators, and stick to their gun, positive or negative. But that's the third persona. Let's try and see how um, they turned around over the 2 years, right? So the first one, if you look at the bar, when curiosity and agility are dominant characters, the student learning outcomes was in a upward graph. So it was moving from every semester to semester in 1 or 2%, and later on it actually swooped to about 3 to 6%. Um, the persona 2, when curiosity and collaboration, along with the trigger of agility, when the student understood that, I can't really stick to what my solution is or my train of thought is, or to the people I want to work with, when that changed, you could see a spike of 8 to 10%. So if you see the second semester, there is a spike, and then the third, and then it kind of plateaus because that character attribute is built. The third one, if you see, when agility or collaboration is low, you can see a stagnation. So they are good because they inherently have some characteristics, but they are stagnant. They don't go upwards, they don't show a spike in certain courses. Because we have a multidisciplinary course, you have students really doing well in something and not so well in something. But these people have a very stagnant thing, and sometimes also go downward. So this is the comparative assessment. If you see persona 1 is in blue, I hope you can see the colors. You can see the trajectory. The persona 2 spikes really high, and you can see that visibly. And the persona 3 spikes because of inherent, but then dips. So now this I did so we could correct our course outline, pedagogies, the way we were teaching, the kind of assignments we gave, and how we were nurturing, like how we were mentoring. But I thought it was an interesting experiment to share. So the conclusion is that the degree of learning outcome, if you want to have best practices in design, is achieved by, and I'm focusing on transdisciplinary program because that's what I can talk about, is directly proportionate to the level of curiosity and agility in behavioral patterns in characters, where perseverance is a given. I mean, that we can't really let go of that. So that's something that is important there. So I hope I haven't heavily loaded you or bored you, but I want to end with this by Buchanan in 2001, that for a designer to be relevant in changing fabric of society and culture, the stream-based knowledge should connect, relate, integrate, and assimilate in a broader periphery view of specialization. So yes, it's a statement, it's what he said, but I have looked at it as an ever-changing education system and how we can actually keep aligning ourselves to what is there in the future and not play the catch-up game that we have done for the last decade, because technology just fast-forwarded everything. But this is some mantra that is really there in life, and it's actually in my life. I have always been a challenge seeker, and that's what I believe education should be. And that's what actually IDC taught us. I remember R.K. Joshi saying that we are techno designers. That was way back in 1989. And I'm grateful for that. So with that said, thank you so much. We can always continue conversations. We are all available in all social media handles. But thank you for your patience and understanding, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Manisha. Thank you so much. I know you had to compress a lot of stuff in a very, very limited time, and I think you did a wonderful job of that. So I will open this forum for questions, and those who want to ask or add comments to this conversation, you may just, I mean, it will be very helpful if you press the hand button, then I will know who is ready with the question.
When you don't have questions, it's a little scary.
I'm sure there are quite a few. Venkatesh Rajamanika. Venkatesh has a question. Venkatesh, go ahead. Venkatesh, go ahead. We couldn't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. Thanks a lot, Manisha. It was a fantastic talk. Even though we have interacted since you began on this journey, I haven't had a chance to know exactly what transpired actually. It was really very nice to hear from you firsthand. So I just want to, add to what you said about this Gen Z when we are looking at who you are going to educate, right? And then you mentioned very interesting insights about the current generation where they are Photoshop generation and they are impatient and things like that. In my own experience, what I have found is that even though IDC provides for ways by which a diversity of candidates can be recruited, like for example, we have students from Mumbai, Satara, Yavatmal, Madurai, Tirupattur, and so this was the wonderful thing that I discovered, when I was a student myself, 25 years ago. But that seems to be now lost. I mean, even though we are getting the students from these places precisely, but they are all similar, right? They have the same mobile phones, they use the same operating system, they're all familiar with the same apps and so on. So this diversity seems to have lost, right? And I think you mentioned about there is a loss of this cultural roots from which we all came from. We brought something, and in fact, I remember the first time I come from a very small town that I felt that I had something to offer. That I was proud of where I came from. I always thought that my place was a disadvantage to me, because it was a place that nobody knew about, right? And because we could relate to that, so that diversity seems to be lost now. So you mentioned that you had that in your mind when you wanted to design this new curriculum. And I'm sure, as a private university, you will have even more bigger challenges, right? Because you are likely to get students from the above urban areas, mostly from certain kind of socioeconomic status because of the fees, barriers and things like that. So how are you, able to bring in this loss of cultural roots, as you say it?
Venki, that's really an interesting question. And I must say that, in my first batch and the batches to follow, I had this thing that I want this multi-state kind of students. And I did get them, and I found exactly the same thing you're saying. But I also found that they have nuances. So there are people who come from the north who have a very different way of saluting and a different way of approaching certain problems. Okay, and I can say that because with the conviction, because I've had those students. And what we do is, instead of looking down upon such things, we actually popularize it. So my faculty group is trained to say that, okay, that's a way of life now. Can we talk about something? So in the first 2 years, we do spend time in asking every student to talk about from where they came. Okay, and what are the problems that they're facing? It could be a challenge that they have seen at home. And that really actually has brought in diversity of a different kind. So I can't see that diversity like it was in IDC, no, and I don't think we can have that. But it is showing slight nuances of how people behave, how people react to certain things, how feedbacks are accepted and not accepted over this non-metro and metro towns, and then we celebrate that. So we also have events in our school, small things happening, which we talk about from where they came from. They do some form of co-curricular activities about it, and we have a photography competition every year, and sometimes they bring in pictures from there that we talk about. So we do these small little things that have there. Again, what I'm also given to understand is when we do social anthropology as a subject, a lot of these points are discussed. So we are looking at culture and we are looking at biases, and those are something that are triggered by courses. I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Uh, Hello, Manisha. It was a very good presentation. I congratulate you for setting up a school completely on your own and creating such a wonderful program. There are a few things which worry me. It's not about your program, but about design per se now. And you made it a early statement that the days of star designers are over. I think it's a dangerous kind of a practice. The days of star designers are over. There are stars in architecture. There are stars in doctors. There are stars in many professions, in spite of the fact that doctors belong to hospitals and architects belong to large companies and they deal with very large projects. There are risks involved and all that, but they don't seem to have lost their vision. And I don't see that vision driving design anymore. We seem to have succumbed to the idea that future design is going to be multidisciplinary, but that multidisciplinary team can itself be headed by a designer who can show his ways. And that is becoming a big problem now, that we seem to have accepted a defeat. So our stars are now either Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos or Tesla or things of it. But there is no star designers left anymore because we have accepted that defeat. And that's, I think, a major problem with the way design is sort of practiced as well as taught.
So may I just extend that, sir? Hello?
Hello, yeah?
So may I just extend that, or maybe I add to what I said. So when I'm saying that there is an absence of star designer, I'm saying that there is design leadership that is happening at CXO tables and the seat at the table. That was one of the criterion that I had in my program. So we may have lost a star designer, so to say, but we have star leaders, design leaders, and they come with that vision. They come with their own points to put forward. And I think that is still alive. So I don't know whether I would say that we have accepted a defeat. I think if we fuel a leadership and a visionary way of doing it, where we take in more people along the way as we are doing it, I think that is the way forward. Where I don't disagree with you that because of a certain stream that has gained prominence right now, we are following the lead. We are actually, Ravi and me were just talking about it today, and we said that we are sitting on the bench. We are like seats at the table, doing prototypes or screens and stuff like that. So we need to quickly change that in some way. I think that is threatening, definitely, but we still should believe in the vision of design leadership that is happening.
So I can give you some examples of architects like Frank Gehry or Zaha Hadid and all that. They have actually influenced technology rather than being followers of technology. They have shown a leadership in technology by actually creating their own new vision, which required a technology to be developed. And we don't seem to have those aspirations anymore at all. And I'm not talking about your school. I'm also talking about generally design education. That we seem to have accepted the fact it's going to be multidisciplinary. I think it's the saddest part as far as design education goes.
Well, that point is well taken. I think the whole business of starting this humanizing technology was being able to drive technology through design and not the other way around. And that was why we were acclimatizing. And and in fact, I must say this, that the students really want to do that, but the industry is absorbing only UX profiles, right? I mean, I think there are very few boutique companies that are doing technology for design. I mean, a design-led technology. So we have a problem and we need to design an algorithm or design an AI, design something else to facilitate that particular solution and not the other way around. But I think that should probably increase. And, we do have people who want to do that, but don't have enough profiles for that.
Yogesh, you have a question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Manisha.
Hi.
One thing is I was quite excited to look at data being showed, and probably are you fitting some chips in the students to record something like that? So exactly 2% increase and stuff like that is scary, you know. I don't know how do you measure that.
I've built an evaluation system. So
No,
the
it's
evaluation
good.
system is building it.
No, so if you're doing that, I think it is also going to direct us to even put evaluation in our studios, you know, whether that guy has really delivered at the end of the year and stuff like that. So maybe this might even work out. That was actually good when I saw their evaluation system is actually giving you some finite matrices to compare whether things have changed. And another thing that I liked about was the personas of students and what kind of students come in, because I always used to feel and uh, so my question here is, when you are assessing students who are coming into the institute, are you using this personas to kind of look at, because generally people look at portfolios, you know, skills and stuff like that. I just met a student today. He came into my studio to meet, sir, I'm doing US, I learned myself, I'm doing illustration, I learned myself and stuff. He's a mass communication student and he's worried he will not be absorbed into any visual communication course because he doesn't do art by hand. So I was just trying to tell him that maybe the things have changed. You just need to show an attitude towards you want to be here and you want to solve problems. So do you have some sort of direction to identify student personas, how they can get into design? Do you have some sort of matrix like that?
Yeah, so I have forward engineered that right after the curriculum because it was a transdisciplinary curriculum. We needed the left and right brain functioning. We can't
Yeah.
only have the artist part. So, like Sheetal, I think was on our panel first when we interviewed the, I think the first batch. So I do have a presentation in which I give a kind of direction on what you should look at, and the evaluation that we do for a student when you interview the student is also there is a criterion there. So our studio test also has different criteria, and each one then maps up and gives us a student.
Okay.
Um,
So you
ideas.
have kind of you have worked out something connected to identify the person of a student so that it is the right fit for the course. Okay. And another thing which I will just extend on to what Atmankar sir also saying was that uh, the idiosyncrasy of the designer, which he comes out as a rebellion. I won't call him as a star, but there is a rebellion attitude which these designers kind of gets groomed into, and that gets thwarted into the system, right? That gets just bashed up left, right, and center, because if he does that, he's going to be replaced by another guy, somebody who comes in. So how are you? How would you say that design institute can still keep that small flame alive? Because only some uh, different pegs can change things suddenly. Sometimes you won't get things out of a factory. They will have to be grouped slightly differently. So how would you react to that?
So I think I would not like to use the word rebellious, but I would like to use champion of change. And I believe that there is a finite a line between being responsible and being owning what you do. Okay? And I think if we teach, so what I have noticed is our students, because of the transdisciplinary, because they know business and they understand business value, they understand marketing, and they understand software engineering on what they're doing, they're sitting on an interdisciplinary team. So to be squashed and not to be squashed is to be able to put forth your idea that is honed through a transdisciplinary approach and can be acceptable. Now, I can't really have a design that doesn't make business sense to the company, and then I'm feeling stifled. But I think our students have been able to make that pitch, and I'm saying that with confidence because my first batch is also was client facing in the first in their internship that they did, right? So they didn't get stifled. They actually brought a lot of things to the table, and they found different ways to do things. And then they were asked to, have a little workshop with the rest of the team. So the reason I'm not using the word rebellious has a negative connotation. But if you champion the change that you want to do, I think that would make the difference and you don't get stifled. And this is exactly what was told to me by these early career people, that I don't know where I am. I mean, I came out from a design school, great. I went and got bashed up in the industry. I just used a very nice way of saying it, but it was exactly this. So I think the transdisciplinary way just teaches you to own what you're doing and be humble at what you're owning. Humble, I don't mean by character, by way of being empathetic to all the team and what the association is going through. I think this has also been my way of working in it, and because I worked in different sectors that were not design friendly, and to champion a change, I had to do that. So just to end that, I have done character appraisals, so creativity appraisals for jewelry industry. So I built a matrix so that you could, appraise creative people, because it was not about how many rings you polished, right? It was different. How could you do that? So I think that's there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, we have just enough time for 2 questions. One from Mugandi and then let's say Samyukta. Mugandi, go ahead.
Mine actually is more of a comment. Manisha, thank you for speaking to my listening. I totally concur with your philosophical and pragmatic position on transdisciplinary design thinking. I think the transition is more towards attributes that help us function in the world of work. So, for example, instead of just relying on our creativity and IQ, we now have multiple intelligences. So social intelligence becomes very important in functioning in design teams, as well as emotional intelligence. So I think what transdisciplinarity encourages is an expansion of the multiple intelligences that human beings come with. I think in the old days, you just had to be really creative. It didn't matter if you had a big ego. Now it does matter because you have to deal with other people, and humility and empathy, as you've mentioned, are critical. Then the final point I wanted to make was, I don't think we're suggesting that the role of the designer is subsumed by the process. It's more of the designer realizing that he or she needs other people to become fully creative. Ezio Manzini has written a beautiful book called Design When Everybody Designs, an Introduction to Social Innovation. So I think the transition is more towards design as a service to humanity and not design as service to self. Thank you.
Thank you, Mugandi. Thank you so much. Let's have the last question of the session. Sanjita Das, want to go ahead?
Hi, Manisha. So good to hear about this in detail. I was just reflecting on what you said earlier around what it means to be humble in terms of showing up in the role of a designer, and also connecting to what Mugandi was saying right now. Curious how that flows into the specifics of the foundational year when students go through self-exploration, and how does that humility and that kind of mindset of collaboration get ingrained in how they go about self-exploration? So are there like areas that you actively steer away and mentor away from, and encourage them or slightly nudge them to focus on in service of picking maybe problem areas that encourage that kind of exploration beyond, just picking something that is attractive or more instantly gratifying, something that a point that you were making earlier in your talk as well. So just curious how that flows into the foundational areas.
So self-exploration really happens at the last semester of the foundation area, right? First, you're just learning, you're assimilating knowledge, you're learning skills and building your thought process. So what really happens in this space is that we put the onus on what you want to solve, right? And then that's when their self-exploration starts. And it's amazing to see what we think as metro-led new Indians, as I call them, are quite ingrained, and they actually see a lot of things happening around them. So that's one way we get them sensitized and curious. The humility really comes in at when we run our design research course. I'd like to say that most of these students are out there communicating, but they're doing device communication. They cannot talk to people in person. So once they start doing that, that humility really comes in, and they realize that, the liftman in our school also has a life, and how does he go about it? And these are small little exercises we do in certain courses. We do that earlier in the course also in design theory. And that really, what you really need to do with this Gen Z is to put a foothold. Once they figure that out, I think they carry out their explorations in that way. And since you were here, you had come here to the jury, you would have seen that in the students. I hope that in a way. And there are a lot many things that we do, and we can have a conversation offline sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks, Manisha.
Thanks, Aditya. And you're 3 past 10, and I think we also need to get our body some rest.
Yeah.
Manisha, it's wonderful, and it's a matter of great pride. I'm saying on behalf of all of us that somebody from our community has taken up something as challenging as redefining this entire paradigm of design education. And it's great pride that we look at the work that you have done. And I know that there's more miles to go, but I think you've done a fantastic beginning, and then exposed a great deal of thinking that has gone behind this and made us a lot more aware of possibilities. And I'm sure that if there are more questions, I mean, these are not topics that can be wrapped up in an hour, and there's more and more. The more you talk, the more will come out. And I'm sure the forum is still open, and those of you who want to weave a dialogue around it, I'm sure we should do it. And because all of us, some way or the other, are vested in education, and that too, design education is always close to that. And I was telling Manisha that at least those that I've talked to have always had some bit of, I am teaching here, doing this here. And that's where I think somewhere you all feel that it's important to contribute towards building the future designer. And that way, I think, Manisha, what you have put together is extremely inspiring. And I mean, we really look forward to this program getting really, really successful. And I know this is not the only project, there's more that will come your way. And who knows, I mean, we have come up with some special soup that's going to make a big difference in how designers are getting made in this country. And I really look forward to that. And thanks to your time. I know it's been hectic when you've been traveling, and since you took it up to do this for us. And on behalf of the entire alumni community who is present, and also those who will be watching the recording, I say a big thank you to you, and look forward to more and more such interactions with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you really for inviting me and giving me a patient listen. I'm always available to share this education, a different scenario. I mean, this is one scenario that I've worked in. I'm sure there will be more scenarios that we can work on and have design programs that really solve a problem. We set out to solve a problem and not just to create and build another program. So I'm available anytime anybody wants to have a chat. And it's always better to go back to IDC, even though it's on this digital platform. So thank you again, and good night.
Thank you. Good night to all. And with this, I'm closing the recording.